Here's what this is a remembrance of Fred and Ella Winterfeldt, who were just a darling couple. And a little later on, I'll give you the history of them as I can remember it, because I didn't know I was going to be giving you a little background, but things that I picked up in being with them for so many years. But they were
Ask me
Baba
something
Hand. Go
quiet.
ahead. Am I too loud? Oh, okay. But Baba handpicked them to be the head of the Monday night group in New York, and they were very conscientious, and they were the ones that distributed all the communications from India to the rest of the country and to groups and everything. This was beginning in the 50s, early 50s, and even the late 40s. And eventually they moved to Myrtle Beach. Baba said that they should settle at the center. So in the early 70s, they came to Myrtle Beach. I mean, they were like godparents to so many of us. I mean, they were fantastic. They did everything.
You cry first, Jeff, then me.
They did everything they could to support our lives with Baba, and especially the young people. Their house was always open, and they were unbelievably generous. And I'll tell their history in a little bit, but I thought I would ask Hana. Now Hana, it used to be Debbie Peterson, and she worked at the Gateway with Fred and Ella for many years, beginning in the early 70s.
No, first it was Jane.
And Jane, okay, and then she worked, and so she had a very close relationship with them. And I've asked her if she would share some of those personal times that she had with this dear, dear couple, Fred and Ella.
Now,
So,
oh,
so Hannah, it's up to you.
oh,
Go ahead.
okay. Hello, everyone. Hi, Dana. I'm seeing so many people that I know and love, and I feel like diving into the screen. It's just so much fun to see you guys. So happy to be able to talk about Fredella. But I do have a message from Ella from years and years ago. And this is the first time that I have been able to give everyone, a lot of people all at once, her message. I am not Rudolf Steiner's niece. Got it? Because, oh, I can't hear you. That's not fair. What am I doing wrong?
No, you're doing fine. I
Can
just
hear
said that's
you.
one of the best documented rumors around.
Oh, okay. I served with Fredella. Do you mind if I read? Because that's what I'm going to do. I served with Fredella at the Gateway from the time they arrived from New York City and to Myrtle Beach until I left to have my son, Jim Myers, and my son, Andrew. But before I went down to Myrtle Beach, there was the Adi and Merji trip to New York City. And I held back from going to Myrtle Beach in order to go there. And that was marvelous. And afterwards, I was invited to go to Fred Ella's apartment and hang with them and hang with Adi and Merji. And it was such a gift. I can't even tell you. I think it really whetted my appetite to be close to the close ones in Myrtle Beach, even quicker because I hitchhiked down soon after that. Okay, Fred was born Ernst Johannes Friedrich Max Winterfeldt. He told me all this in the Gateway one day because Ella would go to the library and he and I would talk when there weren't any visitors. It was really wonderful. Fred was born Ernst Johannes Friedrich Max Winterfeldt. His nickname by his family was Fritz. In 1918, he changed his nickname to Fred. Ernst means earnest. Johannes means saintly. Friedrich means full of peace. Max means Maximilian, powerful king, just and benevolent. Is that Fred Winterfeldt? He told me this one January day in the early 70s in a quiet moment at the Gateway. He grew up in Germany. He was the youngest and the only boy of several children. His mother was famous for her wonderful cooking of wild game, especially deer. The Kaiser Wilhelm heard about this woman, and he asked her to move her family to his residence, not in the palace or whatever, but somewhere on the land. And that's what they did. And Fred told me that, and I'm just going to be extemporaneous as memories come. Fred told me that he made best friends with the son. Is that okay? With the son of the Kaiser, who was paraplegic, and he was in a wheelchair. And it was the first friend that this boy had ever had. And because of that, the Kaiser really, really loved Fred and his family. When he was a teenager, he ran away from home. He had a lot of older sisters who would not run away. He made it to a port and he lied about his age, and he was about to go aboard a ship, literally walking up the plank. Probably you all know this already. One of his sisters grabbed him by the back of the neck and brought him home. He fought on the German side in World War I and the Allied side in World War II. In World War I, in battle, his friend was shot in the stomach, and Fred wrapped his arms around his friend from behind, and the contents of that man's stomach poured out into Fred's hands. He experienced shell shock. No doubt the man died. He was taken to a place in the mountains where he could have fresh air and exercise. There was a special program for people who were shell shocked in Germany. The patients lived outside and ate raw food only, and they did gardening. They soon became well again with this treatment. He was either wounded or in shell shock when he was taken to the hospital. I don't know if shell shock came on that quickly or what, but while lying on the gurney in the hospital, he found he was above his body. And this is how he started to really look into spirituality. He began to study metaphysics. Fred became my best friend. Oops. We worked really well together. Ella was in the library in the morning, and then she came back to the Gateway when she and Fred would have lunch in the little kitchen there. They always finished with nuts and raisins. They used to pick me up in North Myrtle Beach at my apartment each morning after my DeSoto with fins died. Fred wouldn't stop at the stop sign before entering the highway. He would slow down, and I think he had antennas that would go out like this. And if there was no car coming, he would just go. But I was like, Fred, I don't want to die. He taught me some sweet, oh no, wait, sorry. Ella used to lean over Fred at the desk, at the main desk, as he sat there writing with his eyeglasses unhooked from one ear and dangling from his mouth. She would stroke his head. She was so crazy about Fred. Fred had a beautiful operatic voice. When there were no visitors at the Gateway or in Pine Lodge, where we were first, he'd go to a window and widen his stance and let out the most beautiful operatic, rich tones. Kathy, you would have loved that. He taught me such sweet things, like in the fall, when the birds would go wild at the pyracanthus. He explained that When nights were cold and days were warm, the berries fermented and the birds actually got drunk. So we looked forward to that every single fall. He told me that when he was superintendent at the apartment building in New York, one day he was in the lobby, which was below street level, with big windows at the top. Fred, being the super, was always around the lobby and helping people. But he saw a taxi pull up and the back door of the taxi open and a woman's legs got out. He couldn't see more than from her knees down. He said, well, he heard himself think, that is my wife. That was Ella. I had not heard that she was already married, but Jeff thinks she was already married, but who cares? They were meant to be together. But they became very discouraged and depressed together about life, and they planned to commit suicide. They saved their money to have a boat built. They found a boat builder, gave him a sack of cash, and the guy left and never came back. They were crushed. Soon after, Ivy Deuce came along to rent an apartment. Fred had a head of the Buddha on his desk, and she asked him if he knew what the bumps were on the Buddha's head. He didn't. She told him they were snails that crawled up on the head of the Buddha to protect him from the sun as he meditated out of their compassion for Lord Buddha. Fred observed a button on Mrs. Deuce's coat with a man's face. When she leaned over to sign the lease, her coat came open. Are you having trouble hearing me, Tom? Okay. Who is that? Fred said. She said, I'll tell you later. She got an apartment and he saw her quite a lot, and they became members of Sufism Reoriented. They met Baba in Myrtle Beach in the Lagoon cabin. Baba asked them to return to New York and sell their properties, a house in the country and another piece of property, and give him the money for his work in America. They were to turn around and leave that day. They did so. They were told not to tell anyone of Baba's request. Fred told me Baba cabled him over a period of time and told him to walk a certain path in the streets of New York City in the wee hours of the morning. This went on for quite a long time. There was nothing Fred had to do or say. He just had to walk between certain hours of the early morning on the route that Baba told him to take. Fred told me juicy stories, like John Bass having a mad crush on Virginia Rudd. And one time, when driving up to the Rudds' home, there was Virginia leaning out of the window to yell at a friend, and she was completely naked with her voluminous breasts exposed. I'm glad that most of you like that. I don't know where my other stories are. Does anybody else want to say something about Fred and Ella? I can keep going, but do you want to tell stories, or shall I just?
Well, why don't you keep going a little bit longer? I have a little video also of some photos of Fredella.
Yeah.
After you're finished, I'll show you.
Yeah, sure. So the next part of the story, Jane, let's see. I moved down from New York, upstate. No, I went to have my first retreat at the Baba Center. I loved it so much that I moved down, and I waitressed at night, and every single day, 7 days a week, I just went to Kitty and Elizabeth's house and said, what can I do? Or to Jane. I took dictation from Jane, and I walked her dog and stuff like that, you know, and Beauty, remember Beauty, the that dog that they had. I walked Beauty. And it led to being offered a job with Jane at the Pine Lodge. Let's see, I'm sorry, that was, yeah, that was before Fred Ella moved down, because they moved into Pine Lodge. So we worked out of the Pine Lodge for maybe 2 years, I think. And then Fred and Ella, Jane was a little overwhelmed, you can imagine, because she did everything, including then becoming the receptionist, right? And so she told Elizabeth that she needed help. And Elizabeth called Fred and Ella, and they moved down to serve. Isn't that great? Isn't that just so sweet? Oh God. So I got to, the people who were in charge of the building of Pine Lodge changed from Jane to Fred Ella, but I was still working there, and I was the one who gave tours a lot, and I wrote letters to people who wrote for information about Baba. And I also on Saturdays worked with Jane with the Happy Club, so that was really nice. And Fred Ella were, when they became older, it was hard. Jeff knows all about this. It was hard to see them decline, because we absolutely loved and adored them. And maybe Jeff will talk about that someday. I don't know. But that's all I have written down. Is there anything?
That's, and you can jump in at any point, so feel free. You don't even have to just speak, and we'll let you come through. And Jeff, did you want to add a little?
Well, I'll wait and have you play that video, and also like say, Hana, anytime you want to chime in with Fred Ella stories, feel free, and anyone else that's here.
Oh, I have another one. I forgot. This is a good one. Maybe I brought out the wrong paper. Okay, so I used to live with Nisi Jensen, south of the center. And then she came out here to be with Carol Lee, her daughter, because Carol Lee was pregnant. She was a Sufi and she was having a baby. So I moved up to North Myrtle Beach, and Fred and Ella used to pick me up in the morning and take me home at night. So Fred would not come to a full stop at the end of my road. He must have had telepathic feelers, because he never looked left or right. He just slowed down a little, and then he went out, and I would go, Fred, what are you doing? And Ella would snap at me, what, you think Fred is stupid? And she said that probably 3 times to me over the course of the years. I criticized Fred.
Well, that Chevy Nova they had, the accelerator was so terrible. You went from 0 to 30 miles an hour practically, just pressing it down. It just took off.
Well, maybe that's
Yeah.
maybe that's why he had the courage to just zoom out.
Yeah. It was a crazy car.
Crazy car.
So, Ruthie, you have that little video. Um, 1 second. I
Yeah.
don't know if people can. Let me see. I do have a picture of Fred Ella, but I don't know. You're going to have others, but here's a nice picture of them.
Jim, do you know where my picture is? The big one of me and Fred Ella?
There's Fred Ella right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Did you find it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ruthie.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Hannah.
Oh, I just wanted to say, here's a picture of me and Fred Ella taken, I think, by John Welshons at the Gateway.
Oh, beautiful.
Isn't that sweet?
Yes.
They were so loving. And Fred and I had the best conversations when Ella was in the library. It was really great. She was a little possessive of Fred,
Yes, she loved him.
Yeah.
He did. All right, I'll show this video just to as a remembrance of this wonderful Baba couple. How fortunate we were to have them in our lives. Okay, one more second. Okay, here we go.
Some sweet fragrance fills your cabin, welcomes me as I come in. When I'm quiet, I hear the fullness in the room where you have been. Like the scent of secret flowers, there's a beauty I receive. I can sit with you for hours, closer than the air I breathe.
I can see where you were walking, photographs I know so well mark the scenes of favorite stories that my heart still longs to tell. In the pictures you are smiling on the path beside the pond.
As I follow in your footsteps, touched by something far beyond. I reach out to hold the railing, rest my hand and start to grin. Now I stand where you were standing, touching where your hands have been. On this bridge you meet me closer, crossing over time and space. These are tears of grateful wonder, flowing down my smiling face. Now I find I'm often smiling, just to turn and feel you here. I can sense your sacred timing everywhere I go. You're near. I can trace your human history, touch the cushion on your chair. You left so much grace and mystery. I can feel you everywhere. You left so much grace and mystery. I can feel you everywhere.
Wow. Wow. Those were the days.
Boy, very touching seeing them.
That is beautiful.
Did you know? Um, I just saw something else here. You probably already know this, and this can't be a secret, I guess. They met Baba in Myrtle Beach in the lagoon cabin. Baba asked them to return immediately to New York and sell their property. Do you know this story?
Yeah.
I did. I told it
You
already.
said that earlier,
Oh,
yeah.
I did. Oh, okay.
Good.
Okay.
But you can resell the property if you want.
I have to sell this property.
So I'll just say a few words, and then later on, I thought I would share. I was there toward the end of their lives and give you some beautiful things that happened then. But
Jeff,
yeah, go ahead.
can I just, I skipped a couple sweet little touches.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Ella used to lean over Fred. You know how she was very possessive of Fred. And after she would come back into the gateway, Fred and I didn't kibitz anymore. It was Fred and Ella, and she was, she protected Fred. And he had a beautiful operatic voice. I did. And he taught me some sweet things, like in the fall when the birds would go wild at the pyracantha, the bushes that have the spikes. And he explained that when nights were cold and days were warm, the berries fermented and the birds actually got drunk, which I think is a fabulous story. Anyway, that's the end of my stories.
Yeah. Well, later on, if other things occur to you, chime in. Just to go back a little bit, I think Hana gave you a lot of the background of Fred and Ella, and but when Norina and Elizabeth went to India in I think 1947 or latter part of the 40s, Baba said, "Well, who is going to be ahead of the Baba group in New York?" And so names were suggested and everything, and names came from New York, suggesting who might fill in continue with what became the Monday night group, and various names were submitted, and eventually Baba said he wanted a couple, and when Fred and Ella's names were submitted, he said that's the couple. They hadn't even met Baba at that point. They didn't meet Baba until 1952. But Baba, they were handpicked by Baba. Perfect for all of us young people. And Fred says this, when he studied Baba, well, at a certain point, Ella felt she couldn't serve two masters. She wanted to serve just Baba, even though they were both Sufis. And Fred wasn't as strong, but Ella could be very headstrong. And so, and Fred was having trouble. Are you folks able to hear me? Yeah. So Fred had trouble with the idea, how can God be bottled up in that human form? He really agreed with Baba's teachings, but how is that possible? But anyway, they went in to see Baba in 1952. They went in through on the lake side of the lagoon cabin, and Baba stood up and held out his arms, and Ella shot right into his arms. And Fred, looking over, Baba looking over Ella's shoulders, looked at him, and that look, he said, he knew that Baba was God. And the idea of God in human form completely, the problem with that dissolved, completely. And so I'll tell you, later on, like I say, I'll talk about the latter part of their life. There's one story that I thought they used to share, which was Fred, fought the World War I on the side of the Germans, on World War II on the side of the Allies. But because he was German, he was stationed in the the South Pacific, New Guinea, as a matter of fact. And he didn't really have too much to do. And he and this Australian guy went for a walk down along the New Guinea coast. You know, just exploring things. They didn't bring any guns or anything, any weapons with them. It was just, you know, kind of a neutral country. They're walking along, and at one point, they turn around and they see out of the forest there are these menacing natives coming, and they would take a step forward, and they stop, and then they take another step forward, and they were surrounding them on all sides, and it looked it looked like their end. I mean, they did not look like they wanted to talk things over. And at the last second, when they got within about 10 feet of them, crowding them off the right there on the shore, the Australian guy took out his false teeth and went like this. He went around every one of them, and very slowly they backed up into the forest. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had Fred and Ella, you know. And there was another time, Fred kind of got into astral travel a little bit. He used to travel around. And one time he came back to get into his body again, and someone was occupying it. And not only that, but the guy that occupying his body proceeded to go on a 3-day drunken binge. And I mean, but with Fred's body. So Fred is starting to drink like a fish, and Ella is like, Fred, what are you doing? You know, he just went on drinking, and he was the manager of this apartment complex, important on the east side, and totally embarrassing. And it went on and on for 3 days. Eventually, the guy lost consciousness, and then that moment, Fred was able to get back into his body. But of course, he inherited a hangover of 3 days and all the abuse that this guy had done to him. And that was the last time he did any traveling. Anyway, I'm going to, later on, I'll share some things, but we'll open it up to any of you who want to share. We know we got Tom Riley, who goes way back with Fred and Ella. And Kathy, I mean, anything you want to do there? Doesn't have to be, Tom doesn't have to go right away.
You want to unmute, Kath? Kathy? Sweetheart, is this a good time or you want to wait?
Kathy, we can't hear you. You have a beautiful voice, but
You're silenced. You have to unsilence your
oh,
computer.
you know, well, let's go on. She has trouble with this computer.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for letting me know.
Anyone else feel like chiming at this point? Just raise your hand. Okay, Dana, yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dana.
I pressed on mute. Oh, there we go. Well, I'm jumping ahead a bit, but
Good.
first I want to say a couple of things about Fred, and then I'll talk about Ella, who I had more contact with later. But just to say about Fred, that he was the one, my brother, who came to the center once during the Fred Ella days. Of all the people on the center that my brother remembered, he remembered Fred being the partridge in the pear tree when we did the 12th of Christmas. He said that was very touching when that man got up and ruffled his feathers and gobbled. The thing he remembered about the center. I was in India at the time that Fred passed away. I'd been sort of living there and working in Goer's clinic, and it was just an incredibly blessed time for me. And I was just looking in my diary to see anything that I had written about Fred and Ella, and what I came across, I hope it's all right if I read this, it's rather personal, but it's the letter I wrote to Ella after Fred died. So I was there when he died. Dearest Ella, you know I'm sure how much you are in the thoughts of those here. May I add my wishes to the many that you are finding all that you need. Oh dear. I tried reading it before and I did okay, but I'm not going to make it through this time. I can't even get past the first sentence. Finding all the strength that you need and comfort in Baba's love. I know that the love of your many friends, children, and assorted Baba family members are there also now and always. I've sent you an embrace via Terry Weisbart, who just left Bombay today for New York, and will have seen you by the time this letter arrives. I thought that you would be happy to know that Mera, Meru, Goher, Naja, and Arnavaz were either in Baba's tomb or in Baba's cabin adjacent to the tomb, garlanding Baba's picture at the time of Fred's passing. At a certain moment, Mera and I garlanded his picture in the cabin together, and I felt Baba step out of the picture in such a personal way, and so powerfully I shall never forget it. It was a most beautiful morning at Marabad Hill, and Mera spent an extra long time there that day, showing so many of Baba's personal things in his room. There was much heart singing at the Samadhi as well, and Baba moved me to sing I Shall Never Leave You. The following night on the way to Arti, I heard the news from from Terry, who had heard it from Erich, and we walked up the hill under a completely full moon. The entire atmosphere of the tomb and surrounding were so as still and charged with serenity as ever I have felt them to be. Prayers were said and artis were sung in total heartfulness and full voices, and Baba was there in a very special way. Afterwards, I sang your song, I Found a White Dove. John Connor, Chris Peterson, and Terry all sang Francis and Bob's lovely songs, and throughout there was a profound and definite sense of Fred's, yours, and Baba's united spiritual presence. It was unmistakable. There was much joy to be felt that day. That day, Laurie Agan and John Connor had decorated the tomb unknowingly with one large heart and two smaller ones connected to it beneath it. So beloved Meher Baba had seen to every detail. Fredella, you are so dear in our hearts, mine, and so many others, including those Westerners presently here, and it is all due to Baba, who shines through your life so magnificently. May he bless you. Oh dear. With his company. Most personally and just as you need. As of course he will. May I also deliver the message of love which my parents sent me off from Boston with in June. The first people in Myrtle Beach to come to their minds were you, though they as yet do not know, don't know this. So their love comes to you also with mine. Words are always inadequate for what the heart knows and feels to say. And there are many here, but I know they will reach your heart as they are intended. So I send all love and wish continued strength to you, Ella J. Meher Baba. And I felt very prompted within at that time to help Ella in some way, although I was not living in Myrtle Beach anymore. I was officially living in California. I was between the three places, I guess, California, Maribad, and Myrtle Beach. But as it turned out, I did go back to Myrtle Beach subsequently and lived with Ella on and off for an extended period of time. And during that time, I got to observe how very significant Jeff's relationship was to Ella. He was her tremendous support during that time. And some of the things I remember from working with Ella are funny little detailed things, like she would give us a shopping list and she'd say, now when you buy the paper towels, only Viva towels, only Viva towels.
Yeah.
So to this day, I buy Viva paper towels.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they had that quote of Baba's, which I'll probably quote not correctly, but if you don't want to become old before your time, be cheerful in word and deed and appearance, and especially in appearance. Doesn't it say that?
Yeah,
Because it helps others.
beautiful. Yeah.
And just one thing about Fred, I mean, there's so much to say about both of them, but one of my memories of Fred is I was going to teach in Aner, South Carolina for the first day of and I was terrified of teenagers. And I went to the Gateway or to Pine Law, I guess it was the Gateway at that time, and sort of checked in with Fred before I went. And he said, now when you stand in front of the class, stand there with your arms open. Don't have your arms by your side, but if they're by your side, have your palms open so they know you want to give them something.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Beautiful.
I think that's it from me for now. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I apologize. I didn't realize I was going to have such a hard time getting through that.
Yeah. No.
It's beautiful.
I
Please
want to just mention one thing that piggyback on what you said. Fred, every year when we'd have the Happy Club kids, the kids from the ghetto areas of Myrtle Beach, they would come up for Christmas, and Fred would always play Santa Claus, and he would give out the gifts to the kids. It was darling. He'd rush down, and so then no sooner was he done with Santa Claus, he would rush back up to the Gateway and continue his work. One time, he did that, and some of the kids, when they would bring the key back, they would go into the Gateway, and the kids are kind of looking at him, kind of very seriously. He says, "What's wrong? What's wrong? You're wearing Santa Claus's shoes." That was so imprinted on him. And Fred says, "No, but he dropped, when the sleigh went overhead, he dropped his shoes, and I'm wearing them." Anyway, go. Anyone else?
I remember one other funny little detail about working for Ella, which Lindsay Wessel at the time, I think her name was Wessel then. Maybe it was Trask, I can't remember. No, I think it was Wessel. Anyway, she and I switched off 48 hours on and 48 hours off. And we would write these voluminous journals to each other about what happened during our shift. But we never could actually meet any other time. So we would chat at our shift change. And one day, probably more than one day, but at least one day, Ella said, "Can't you two talk some other time?" And we said, "Well, Ella, no, actually we can't." One of us is always here.
Beautiful. Yeah.
But that cemented a long friendship with Lindsay. That was the beginning of it through Ella. And I have to say, Jeff gave me a lot of support during that time too. That was part of the package of working for Ella.
We were all helping each other through that.
Yes.
Well, Michal has her hand up. She might want to share something. You want to go ahead, Michal?
Yeah, I just want to share that Fred and Ella were the ones that through which Carrie Benjamin heard about Baba, and she got the book, the discourses. She read them, and she met Baba, and that is how she brought Baba's love to Israel. So it's very, very special. And thank you for the shares. Such beautiful shares, such beautiful people. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's wonderful, Michal. Thank you. I didn't know that. What a wonderful fact to bring. You guys remember when they used to come up to the kitchen to get water?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would wait I would wait for them to come and get the water so I'd get a chance to see them. And
They
have
had to
Yeah.
suffer with that Pine Lodge water.
Yeah. So such a smell of sulfur.
Oh, and disgusting. They couldn't even wash their clothes. They'd get orange.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. It looks like maybe Kathy got her audio back on. Thank you, Fairstay. Got a little note here from Fairstay. Kathy, are you there?
Can you hear? Yeah, can you hear us?
We sure
Good. Yep.
So when Hana, when you were talking about Jeff, you were talking about the teeth.
Yeah.
It reminded me that Tom has remembered that Fred talked about being gassed in World War One,
Hmm.
and he told
Yeah.
Oh,
told Tom that they were in the trenches and all at once smelled this tremendous smell of what he told Tom smelled like wintergreen, and he passed out and woke up in a field hospital, and many of the men had died. So Baba saved him again at that point.
I can add to that.
Yeah.
I'm remembering the story he told me.
Mm-hmm.
He was waiting on a gurney or whatever in the hospital in the hallway waiting for treatment when that happened, and he left his body, and that's when he told me he started really looking seriously into spirituality.
Oh, that's amazing.
Who
So that's
wouldn't? And not my
amazing.
body.
Wow. One of my favorite stories about that Tom shares is about meeting Fred and Ella for the first time in their apartment at Manhattan House. Would you tell that, Tom? Okay. So Tom rang the doorbell, and Ella answered the door, and she told you about the cat. Little Shotzi. Yeah.
And she said,
Okay. Can you hear Tom?
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay.
a very difficult situation has just happened. Fred is quite upset about it, as well as myself. And this is the story. We have a little cat, a kitty cat, and her name is Shotzi. And let's see what happened with little Shotzi.
She went out on the fire escape and went down. And poor Shotzi run over by a truck. Yeah.
Poor little Shotzi was run over by a Federal Express truck.
Oh,
Oh, it was so traumatic for Fred, because they were very, very close. And then
But just before you arrived, Fred went into the
Fred was walking down the hallway here in our apartment and looked into the guest quarters. And what did he see coming out of the closet but Shotzi? And she looked at Fred and smiled and said, Papa, please don't be upset. I don't want you to worry, because where I am now, I am so very happy. And I can freely think of you and Mama
oh,
with such love. So please relax and be happy. And that will make me happy too.
and then little Shotzi.
What did she do?
Shotzi walked into the closet and through the wall and disappeared.
Disappeared.
So Fred is so happy today because Shotzi came back.
Shotzi came to give us a blessing.
So that was the first meeting,
What
Tom.
a gift that was. I simply wanted to share that with you.
that's adorable.
There's so many beautiful letters. I think Hana and Jeff mentioned how much correspondence and how many people Fred and Ella helped over so many years. And we have those beautiful letters.
Yeah.
So the first letter Tom wrote to Fred was answered by Fred, and it's so beautiful. Is there time maybe to read the letter from Fred to Tom?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Tom asked that I read it. October 17th, 1956, Tom had met Fred and Ella that in the late, I think, middle of September 56, and Baba had just left, but they did have this wonderful time with meeting and Shotzi and talking about Baba. Then Tom took a ship. He worked in the Merchant Marine and wrote a letter to Fred, and Fred wrote a beautiful letter back. And this is the first letter from Fred to Tom, October 17th, 1956. Thank you, dear friend. Thank you for your letter of October 10th. We appreciate so much your letting us share in your innermost feelings and longings. I have sensed the very first time I met you that you are an artist, an idealist longing for the beautiful and sacred, and experience it as reality. I am not an artist, but love art when I feel it is done with the love and longing of a heart inspired by the deepest within. As Baba says, art and science must be spiritualized to become a means of helping us on toward the goal. We seek and we strive and are disappointed to find that nothing lasting is found without. However, if we have the great fortune to contact a perfect master who knows all, who is knowledge and infinite love and infinite bliss, we can have faith in him because we are drawn to him by that something within, which feels that he is the only solution. So is Baba. And if, as you so beautifully said, to behold, quote, to behold his face, Tom had written, he wanted to behold his face and to stand honestly in his presence, close quote. This is our only desire. Baba's love will draw us to him. He says, tell all about my love. And Baba says, my message always has been and always will be love divine. He becomes the nucleus and all our actions are gathered about him. We can give him all our good and our so-called bad. Baba says, I am like the ocean, drown yourself in me and live forever. The whole universe has come into existence for the sake of love. It is a journey from unconscious divinity to conscious divinity, as Baba says. In the end, one finds that Baba is the one in all, the Christ, our real self, God. As you know, Baba is in seclusion until February 15th, 1957, and cannot be reached. However, if your heart sincerely draws you to Baba and you feel within that you must write to Adi, who is one of Baba's close mandali, then do write to Adi. He will be able to give you advice. Please do write to us. We will be so happy to help you as much as we can. You will find the right way, as you know, that you are sincerely seeking. Our heartiest wishes and loving greetings, Fred Winterfeldt, Ella Winterfeldt.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So beautiful. Thank you. Well, Cindy is here also and would like to share something. So Cindy, I'm going to go ahead. There you go.
Hi, I'm Cindy J.
Hi.
Baba.
Hey, Baba.
So I met Fred and Ella in when I first came to Baba around 1967 in Manhattan. I had just come from the center where Kitty and Elizabeth let me know where the meetings were on Monday nights, and I met them there. And from there we went. I was blessed to go to their apartment before the meetings on Monday and hang out with Fred and Ella. And it was always, I don't have an exact story about it. I don't remember about what we said or anything, but they were always surrounded by the youngsters, me at the time. And they found great joy in seeing the young people coming to Baba. And then after the meetings, we would go, well, Fred and Ella didn't go, but the rest of us would go to Horn and Hardart and have coffee. And remember Erwin and Eddie were there, and other people. And it was really a joy to meet them. And the other thing about Fred is that I lived in Brooklyn Heights and they were in Manhattan, and I had a birthday party for myself, I mean, at the time. And Fred asked me if I liked saris. And I said, yeah, I love saris. And they came to my birthday party. I couldn't believe it. And he gave me a sari that he bought during the 3 Incredible Weeks in India. And I still have it to this day. And I actually got married in it long time ago, but since got divorced. But anyway, I still have the sari and I'm very proud of it. And the other piece was that when I was in India in the 1969 Darshan, after being in the Blue Bus tour, something happened to me. I don't know if it was heat stroke or whatever, and I was very shy. I was not outgoing, and I started burning up from the inside. I literally thought I was going to die. And they laid me down on this something, and I just kept on repeating Baba's name. I really felt I was burning up, literally burning up from the inside. And when I started to come to, looking down at me were Fred, Adi Irani, and Darwin Shore with these big smiles on their faces, and they're looking at me. And I was like, it was almost like being in the Wizard of Oz, saying, oh, you were there, and you were there, and you were there. And they were just so loving and kind, and oh, it's just this wonderful feeling. And I remember that time very, very well. And I just want to say, Jai Baba, and I'm glad to be here. I'm so glad I found this time to come and join you. So, Jai Baba.
Thank you. Cindy.
So sweet. Wonderful you're here, Cindy. If you think of anything else, just feel free to let us know.
Okay.
Great. Just looking to see who else is here. You know, Betty Ryan, or Betty, I'm Betty Ryan. I'm channeling Betty Ryan, but Betty, I know, Betty Lohman. What about you, girl? Are you there? I don't see your face up, so you must be somewhere else right now.
I see John Welshon's
Where?
on the second gallery. He may have something to share. Oh,
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Yes,
Can you hear
sorry.
me?
Yeah.
good.
Well, I didn't prepare anything, but so many memories are flooding through me listening to all of you. And I was just remembering my first meeting with Fred, which was on the phone. And it was 1972. And I had just read The God Man. And I was in college in Tampa, Florida. And as I was reading The God Man, there was a lot about the center in there. And I thought, I've got to go there. So I called the center and Fred answered the phone. And I was asking him, I wasn't quite sure what the situation was. So I said, do you have accommodations for people to stay? And he said, where did you hear about the center? And I said, well, my friend Keith Sheridan told me about it. Who? I said, Keith Sheridan. And then he said, well, he didn't tell you very much because this is a center for people who love Meher Baba. And I said, I love Meher Baba. And he said, oh, you do? What do you know about Meher Baba? So I said, well, I know a good bit. He said, have you read any books? I said, yes. And he said, what books have you read? So I said, well, I've read the Discourses 3 times, all 3 volumes. And I've read Listen Humanity, and I just finished reading The God Man. Oh, well, now the heavens opened, everything changed. And Fred, said, well, you must come. But then he looked at his chart, I guess, and he said, but we're completely full the nights that you want to come. So I said, well, can I just come to Myrtle Beach and I'll stay in a motel and can I visit during the day? And he said, yes, sure, you can do that. So I drive from Tampa up to Myrtle Beach and I stayed in a Holiday Inn the night before. And I really had, I'm sure many of you had the same kind of experience. It was just this aura of joy and anticipation going to visit the Meher Spiritual Center for the first time. And I got there and let myself in the front gate and drove up to the gateway. And there was Hana, at that time Debbie, and Fred was in his office in the back. So Hana came out to greet me and ushered me in to meet Fred. And he invited me to sit down and we sat and talked for quite a while. And, I was, first of all, just delighted by the look of Fred. He was just like an elf, like this divine elf. Yeah. And, I remember that thing that Hana was describing about how sometimes he would have his glasses dangling from his mouth. Other times he had it looped over his ear and the glasses would be hanging down on the side of his cheek. And so we talked and it was like meeting my dearest old friend after, centuries maybe. It was just, he felt so familiar to me and we just hit it off right away. And so he turned and he looked at his chart and he said, I think we can find a bed for you. Do you want to stay? And I said, yes, I would love to stay. He said, how long do you want to stay? I said, as long as possible. So he was sending me into the center later. He came out to my Volkswagen van, was parked outside, and he eyed it with a certain amount of suspicion because it obviously, was a hippie van. But he was so sweet. And he said, now, I want you to know, we do not allow any drugs in the center. So if you have any drugs in this van, I want you to promise me you're going to throw them out. And I said, no drugs, Fred. Everything's fine. So from that moment, and that was June of 1972, for the next 5 years, I think, I would go to the center as often as possible. And it was easy because my home was in New Jersey and my school was in Tampa, Florida. So I was driving back and forth quite a bit. And I would often stop whenever I was going past. I would stop in Myrtle Beach and usually stay as long as they would let me, which in those days was 2 weeks. And during those 2 weeks, Fred would insist that I come out to dinner with he and Ella. And their favorite restaurant was a place called The Reef. I'm sure a lot of you remember The Reef. And we would always go, and Fred would get upset with me. Every time we went, he would want me to order a steak. But Ella recommended the chopped sirloin with mushroom sauce. So I would have the chopped sirloin with mushroom sauce. Well, Fred would get so frustrated. He'd say, it's just a hamburger. I want you to have a steak. And I would say, the chopped sirloin is just fine, Fred. So my father, who lived in New Jersey and was very interested in spiritual things, he had been dabbling in Christian Science for a number of years. He'd been a student of Emmett Fox back in the 40s, I guess. And he was fascinated by Baba, but also a little concerned that I'd been captured by a cult. So he said, I'm going to go to the Mayer Center with you. I said, okay. So we made arrangements to go to the center, which I think was probably my third or fourth visit there. And of course, Fred and Ella insisted on taking him out to the reef for dinner. And Fred was so happy because my father finally would agree to have a steak with him. So my dad would eat steak with Fred, and they really hit it off and had a wonderful time. And my dad kept coming back. He did fall in love with Jane Haynes while we were there, and was scheming to try to figure out how he could get her to go out with him. And I begged him to not embarrass me that way. And then, so for 5 years, there were so many visits with Fred and Ella. And then I think it was in 1976, so that was 4 years later, on what I thought was a routine visit. One night I was going out to dinner with Fred and Ella, and they said the reef wasn't open. I don't know if it had gone out of business or was a night off or whatever it was. And we wound up going to a restaurant at, as I recall, it might have been the Ramada Inn in North Myrtle Beach, something like that. It was a hotel with a restaurant on the roof overlooking the ocean. So we went there, and Fred said, the food is not as good as a reef, but the view is good. So we're sitting there, and Fred orders a bottle of wine. And Ella goes, "Oh, Fred, we don't drink wine." And Fred looks at Ella, and he says, "This is a special occasion." And I look at Ella, and she looks at me, and, we didn't know what he was talking about. That was the last dinner I ever had with Fred and Ella. And he wasn't, nothing had been said about him being sick or anything, but we had quite a night and many tears that night. And then I saw him once after that, when he was ill, and probably about 2 months before he died. And I just went to see him at Pine Lodge, and he was in his pajamas. And he came to the door and had me come in for a few minutes. He wasn't up to a long visit, but I'll never forget the hug that we had at the end of that visit. Then we both knew he was going to die. And he put his arms around me, and I'll never forget the feeling of his cheek against mine. And he started to sob, and he said, "I love you." And that was my last moment with Fred. And after all those visits, then the next time I went to the center and saw Ella, she didn't remember me. She had no idea who I was. So that was kind of the cycle of my time with Fred and Ella, but it seemed like an awful lot more than 5 or 6 years or whatever that time period was. He was really the first spiritual buddy I ever had, and in many ways, the best spiritual buddy I ever had. He felt like my brother, my father, my uncle, my best friend. And it's just such a treat to be able to reminisce about him today with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Beautiful.
Really beautiful.
Baba.
Yeah. Well, listen, there are no hands up. I'm going to quickly show something that Nan sent me, which it looks like a caricature of Fred, just since John had given that early description of how he kind of was elf looking.
Come on, Basil.
Heck,
Well,
and what is-
1945, must just gotten out of the war.
Yes. Good luck.
Hope to see you again.
Yeah.
okay, another soldier.
Is that supposed to be Fred?
Yeah. Yeah, it's got the forehead right.
Really has the big chest.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Nan. Thank you.
Great.
Anything else you guys want to send on.
Oh, okay. I found another one. I'll send it.
Oh, cool. Send it on, Nan.
Hi. You're so cute.
Can you walk?
Looks like Alan has got his hand up.
Oh, is that Alan or no, we got Rosalie has, Alan has his hand up. Alan, you want to go ahead?
It's tough to top these stories, so I'll just keep a couple stories. One time, I live in Northern California, and one of our compatriots, Bruce Ecker,
tried really hard to do 5 miles.
Am I on or someone else?
Maybe here. Here, bud.
Come on, walk. Walk, walk.
Sorry, Alan, hold on a minute. Somebody else is on here. Hasn't muted Marcia. Let me grab her real quick here. Here, okay. Yeah, there you go. Go ahead, Alan. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all right. It's not a life and death story. So my task this trip was to pick up not liking this story.
There we go.
My task this trip, if I could do it, was to pick up a signed copy of God Speaks. And Fred had a number of them, apparently. And the price that he gave the Bruce, this must be around 73, 4 in that zone, was $100. $100 for a copy signed by Mayor Baba of God Speaks. So Fred and I consummated, Bruce had already sent the money, as I recall. So my task was merely to pick the book up and, make sure it was properly packed, and although Fred had done his magic. So we're talking and he says to me, well, Alan, I have other copies. Would you like to buy a copy? And I said, in one of the great moments of snafus in my career, that's all right, Fred. I don't need it, or something like that. And he looked surprised. And I even now am thinking about it, I'm surprised at me. But in any event, it was, so years later, I went to India in 77, and I was with Adi and Jack, and Adi was selling God Speaks. So I ended up buying a God Speaks for a bit higher, $777. So I could have gotten it for 100 just casually from Fred that day. It's not a big deal. The money's not the issue. It was just kind of humorous that how slow-witted you could be to
inflation.
Not buy a God Speaks. Now, after Fred passed, and before, as John described, Ella became disabled, I guess with dementia or Alzheimer's, whatever it was that came to pass. She would go out to this, everybody would go out to this restaurant. I can't remember the cafeteria's name, but I'm sure I'm going to be told right now by Jeff. Was it K&W or something like that?
Yep.
Was I right? Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Okay, I'm in good shape. And so Fred had died and I was over at the center, and Ella said, I want you to be my date tonight. So because I always get a rental car when I would come to the center, so I wouldn't be handicapped depending on other people. So I picked Ella up at the gateway, I guess, and she held my hand as I walked her to the car, and I drove her to the cafeteria, and we got out, I opened the door for her. These are things I'm not really used to in my career at that point. And she put her arm on mine, like I was her Saturday night date. And boy, was I top of the world, man. This is the greatest thing going. You're the Saturday night date of Ella Winterfeldt. It just is maxed out at this point. And we went in, and there's a bunch of people there. Jeff was probably there under the circumstances. And I bought her food. I think the meals were like $4.50 on a good day. I think it wasn't the top of the line food, but whatever it was my pleasure and my honor to be Ella Winterfeldt's date. And I would get her what she asked for and what kind of dessert, whatever it was. I can't remember all the details. And I felt, I was a guy that night who all the other guys were envious of because I had the moment. So that was very sweet to me. And they were fantastic souls. I enjoyed them immensely. Obviously, I didn't know them the way the people previously, because I was coming from Northern California and come once or twice a year. But I'm so grateful that we're doing these things. As I said many times before in these Zooms, Kitty asked me, way back machine, to not forget the old timers. And by doing these Zooms that we're doing over the last 9 months, I hope we continue, we're remembering the old timers and fulfilling Kitty's wish. And I don't think it gets a whole lot better than that. Thank you.
Hey, Baba Allen. Thank you. Yeah, the other thing I can remember being in Baba's house, and Ella was there, and I don't know if she was in the kitchen, I think hanging in the kitchen. And I remember asking her, well, Ella, I would try to pull her out to give stories about her time with Baba. And she said, well, I can't I'll try it, but I can't do the accent. Everybody's been so spot on. She said, well, I would cook Baba spinach and fish. Baba loves spinach and fish. And then the stories about, and you guys probably know this one better than I, but how when Baba came to the center, Ella cooked. So everybody else would go off to the beach and, through the center with Baba, and she would stay behind to cook. Do you guys remember this? Hana, Jeff?
Well, I remember her cooking fish for Baba, huh?
No, I don't remember.
She did. Oh, I'll just tell you real quickly. She did this one fish. She said, "No, Bob, don't leave any bones in there." So she took all the bones out. By the time it was just like hamburger. So she put it in the shape of a fish, molded it, and Baba kind of looked at it like, "What kind of fish is this?"
Oh, well, there was a story. I'm sure it was Ella about this situation and how she would long to be with Baba as he went off with everybody to the beach in the center. And then there was some special time, and I don't remember. It was almost like Ella at the very end, she could come when she was finished or something. So she was at the very back of everyone and, just longing to see Baba. And she was in the back and couldn't see. And then I'm making this up, but it was like this. And Baba said, okay, now whoever is in the back, come up here and we'll walk, or I'll walk up to the back and we'll walk back together. So the people in the back will walk with me now. It was something like that. So Ella got her wish because Baba came up to her and they walked together back into the center. Nobody remembers that. I do.
That rings a big bell.
Yeah.
I know Baba did something so special for that longing because she prepared his food in such a loving way. And she'd talk about, the spice thing where they would ground the spices in Baba's kitchen. And that's what she would tell me about, was cooking for Baba. Rosalie. Jay Baba, thank you. Oh, Rosalie, I'm sorry. Unmute.
I totally love this, hearing all these things. I met Fred and Ella when I first came in November 16th, 1971. I just remember the beautiful feeling of being around them. So happy that I came, and their hugs, unforgettable. And one time in the library, Ella, I would almost have to use the word, flew over to me and hugged me. And it was almost like, it was like a bird in the human body. I mean, she was just like, it was light and kind of, it was so uplifting and hot face, very hot, like hot-blooded. And this other time it was funny because I asked what signs they were, and she says, "Oh, Fred is Sagittarius and I'm Virgo. I think it's a good combination, no?" And I said, "Obviously, it's a good combination." Jai Baba.
Jay Baba, thank you. Yeah.
The first time I saw Ella, we were standing on the footbridge. I was standing there with Bob Brown, and I don't know, we were looking in the water, and this woman swept down the steps, and she looked like a ballerina. I had never seen anyone with grace like that moment. And she just kind of pirouetted up to Fred. I mean, she was like, I had never seen anything. And I said to Bob, "Oh my God, who is that?" "Oh, that's Ella. That's Ella Winterfeldt." And Baba said in her last life, she was an angel.
Oh.
No.
Did I make that up?
No.
Tell it.
Ella said that she said, "People think I am an angel, but I am not. Stop it. Just stop." So somebody may have thought that Baba said she's like an angel, something like that, but she was furious if anybody brought that up. And she
Well, part of the blame goes to Baba because he said about Ella, I mean, it's in print, that I'm glad that my angel has come down with me this time.
Well,
So
maybe Ella's wrong then.
Well, and she may not have wanted the attention. She really didn't like too much attention. It was hard to get anything about her history or anything. It's always Baba or Fred.
Interesting.
All right, Mayor. Yes.
Mayor Prasad, yeah.
Yes. Let me read this short section in the Awakener magazine about the angel part. It's a beautiful article that Phyllis Frederick wrote along with Jeff Wolverton. So I'll just read the section where the reference to angel is here. So this is Awakener magazine. I'll put the link in the chat window. So this goes, the article name is Fredella, A Bouquet of Memories by Phyllis Frederick with Jeff Wolverton. The Winterfeldt home, first at Manhattan House on East 66th Street, New York, and later on West 57th Street, was opened generously to the whole Baba family, to those in New York and those passing through, to those of the 50s on to those of the 60s. In the 70s, this devoted couple served at Pine Lodge at the gateway of Meher Spiritual Center with the same dedication. The meetings of the original Monday night groups were held at Manhattan House for many years. Baba himself, with his women mandali, visited their apartment in July 1952. I think it was this visit that gave rise to the story that Baba called Ella an angel. Actually, someone that afternoon said, "Baba, Ella is an angel." Baba smiled and gestured, "I am happy that my angel has come down with me this time." He gave us a little discourse on angels, saying they do exist but have to become human beings in order to have the love for God necessary for realization.
Yeah.
There it is.
So Baba was the culprit there.
Still sounds a bit mysterious. I don't know. Thank you so much, Mayor.
She used to tell me she was an angel. So I think it had to do with not liking the attention, that the mention of that, because when we were alone together, she and no one else would kind of, digress on that. She would say these things.
Ken, I see your name here. I don't know if you wanted to share anything. I'm not sure if you had memories of Fredella. Fred, are you there?
You talking about Ken?
I'm sorry.
Ken Richard?
Yeah.
You're muted, Ken, if you're.
Well, he's not muted, but his audio isn't coming through.
Oh. While he's working on that. Oh, wait, I thought of something.
Oh, good. Ken, you might have to go off and come back on because your audio is not working, even though you're unmuted. Go ahead, Jeff.
One time, this is, I think, 56, it could have been 58, and at the barn, and Ella was called in, into the barn. And when she stepped in, Baba had a very stern look on his face. And she got closer and closer, and Baba didn't change his expression, and she had put her hands behind her back, and they were shaking terribly. And she came over to Baba, really more and more scared. And Baba said, relax. Ella would she would say, relax. That's the German. And she said, because she had been a worrywart, a real worrywart. And after that was a turning point. She never worried to the extent that she did after that. But Baba brought it completely up in her. She was like trembling. And here's a story while Ken Richard is trying to get on. This is a story that Baba's very intimate connection with them. In, I think it was 1961, Baba invited anyone to be able to come to India for 1 hour to be, oh wait, am I, yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, for 1 hour. And so Fred, he got the tickets and everything like that, mush, let's go. But she could be very dutiful. And her job was to send out the family letters that were coming from Mani from Marizad and send them out throughout the country. And she felt that she should stay back and make sure that all these letters were distributed. It was something like 500. And they all had to be addressed and everything. And Fred said, no, Baba's inviting us, come, And she would not come. And he, to the last moment, he had the tickets. He even lost the ticket. He had her ticket ready. Come, come. We have a chance to see Baba. She would not do it. So Fred gets over there to India, and Baba extended the time from 1 hour to, I think 5 days, maybe something like that. Anyway, at one point after a couple of days, Fred is in Guru Prasad, and there are a whole crowd of people in the hall. And Baba has Fred stand up, and he says, where is Ella? Erich is kind of interpreting, but he gives it that emphasis. And he says, well, she felt that she had to do these letters. You should have brought her. Why didn't you bring her? And, and Fred says, but I had the tickets, to the last moment. You should have. That was your responsibility. You should have brought her. And Fred said that he also had his hands behind his back, and he was shaking. He was like, he was embarrassed in front of all of these people. And also, he didn't obey Baba. I mean, Baba was not pleased with him, and he's shaking away. And at one point, and he's really getting angry at Baba. And at one point he said, it's your fault, Baba. And Baba goes like that. And then he dictates, right on the spot, he dictates a cable to Ella. Fred might be here with me, but I'm there with you. You know, Fred is here with me in India, but I'm there with you in New York. And that was sent off. And Fred found out later, this cable arrives, Fred found out later that Ella felt so much remorse for not having gone to see Baba that she was actually thinking seriously about jumping out of the apartment window to her suicide. And that cable saved her, you know.
I remember that.
Baba just perfectly intervened with her and them. But Fred said that Baba used his energy that had gotten all riled up and used that to save Ella from a dangerous, disastrous thing. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jeff.
You want to explain what Ella was thinking that made her think it didn't exist?
I did. Yeah, she felt remorse.
All right. Well, Ken, let's see if you're able to get audio. Hi.
We can't hear you. Wow. Later on, toward the end, I'll tell the last days of
All
Fred
right.
Ellen. Huh?
Yeah, that'd be great. Betty, I just wanted to ask you, did you have anything to share about Fredella? No? Okay.
Karen looks like she.
Karen?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Jai Baba, everyone. Of course, one of my earliest memories of going to the center was going to the gateway and seeing Hana and Fredella. And of course, this happened throughout the times that I either visited or lived in Myrtle Beach. I do remember this, what Alan told about going out. We would go out, I guess, on Sunday evenings to the cafeteria and all have a meal together before the week started. But the one memory that really stays with me about Ella was on one of my trips to India. And I'm thinking that maybe Jeff or Hana or Dana or Kathy would know which the year was. But someone who was exceedingly close with Ella after Fred had passed and that brought her to India, which would have been her last trip, was Gary Ladinsky. And that was Dan's brother. The other thing I wanted to mention, and Alan had mentioned it earlier, and if you go to Tony Zeus's Meher Baba Travels page, Robert Dreyfus had some amazing stories with Fred. The sweetest story, I mean, there were wonderful ones about how he got to Darshan, but the sweetest one was that I think Robert came to Myrtle Beach and it was raining and he didn't have a raincoat, and he went to his cabin and there was a very costly, very lovely raincoat and other gear. And they were put there by Fred Ella. And my sense is Fred and Ella did this for many people that came through. So Jai Baba, and
Yeah.
thank you, Hana, Jeff, for this one,
Yeah.
and Ruthie for this
This-
wonderful, wonderful meeting.
Yeah.
So much.
No, that was just like Fred and Ella. So thoughtful, and you could never pay the check. It was impossible. Even if you got the waitress in advance and gave her the money, he would like bully her into giving him the check.
I have Fred's harmonica somewhere. He used to go with a bunch of guys in the mountains in Germany. He played guitar and he played harmonica. And I have a photograph of them, but I don't know where it is right now. But I think, Kathy, I sent it to you, didn't I? But anyway, maybe I can show that sometime if you're interested. next time maybe.
No, that sounds cool if you find it. Yeah. Dana
Well-
has. Go ahead, Dana.
I thought of something that was just kind of an extraordinary thing that used to happen with Ella during the time that we were taking care of her. You've all heard stories of how Baba would be in a very pulled down state as far as the household, as his, the people taking care of him would see that he was in a terribly pulled down state, and then he'd give a darshan and he would look radiant and fantastic, and everybody at the darshan would have no idea that what he was like at home. Well, we saw a similar thing happen with Ella sometimes. It must have been something Baba gave her, because she was in a really very pulled down state. And we'd be telling people, guests to the center, I don't know if she can visit with you. She's so tired and sick, and really she doesn't seem to be able to interact at all. And a person would come by the house and visit with her, and she would be all of a sudden radiate this fantastic amount of energy. And the people would leave and just say, these people taking care of her are crazy.
Yeah, they're hogging her.
They're not allowing her to see anyone. This is terrible. And this would happen time and time again. And we just shrug our shoulders and say, Baba's up to his stuff.
Yeah.
What can you say?
Well, I always had a feeling that Ella was kind of depressed all the time, but she was always acting like she was happy and outgoing, but I think inside she had it was hard.
I think it was hard.
For her.
Oh.
She lived for 8 years without Fred, which was just something we never would have imagined happening to her. But she would leap into, Baba would just fill her with his presence for these people that she was supposed to give something to, and he did it. It was miraculous. That's all I can say.
I'll tell something here. This is toward the end of Fred's life. But going back, Fred used to tell me that in the early mornings, he would sit in the study there, and Baba would appear to him in the seat next to him, and he would bring to Baba all the problems of people in the nearby community, and get Baba's feedback. He was, and he, like I say, Baba was right there. He could, interact with him. And just to kind of give you an idea, one time, and we heard that Fred had some uncanny knowing about people in the nearby community. And I kind of heard that rumor. And one night, I had decided to make a very drastic move in my life. And really drastic, and only I knew. I didn't tell anybody. And the next day I went to work, and I get a call in the mid-morning, Fred asking me if I want to go out for lunch. And I'm thinking, God, if Fred knows, I didn't even want to talk about this with anybody. Does he know? Does he not know? Shoot. I had to say yes. So we went out to lunch, and after the small talk and everything, and he says, well, Jeff, are you doing okay? And yeah, I'm doing okay. You sure? There's not something troubling you? And he got the whole thing out of me, and he got me to change my mind, which was critical in my life. I won't go into that, but so anyway, he had that ability. He would be with Baba in the early mornings. And then he got diagnosed with cancer, which I don't know whether it was 1976 or whatever. And he had pancreatic cancer, which was inoperable. But he kept trying different things. Laetrile, I think he went to Texas. He tried one thing after another. And he felt Baba should be helping him. He really felt that Baba, he was praying to Baba to help him with this. And, it got worse and worse. And he felt like he couldn't even feel Baba the way he was as the pain got more and more. And the horrible thing is that he lost those morning interviews with Baba. He was in so much pain, and if he had to take morphine, he would hallucinate, and it was really difficult. And he felt like he was hoping that Baba would turn the key, and it was not happening. And I would, at the end of my work day at the center, I would go. Kitty and Elizabeth had me move up to the gateway, and I would stay on a cot in the back there. So I would be up there at that end of the center because Fred was requiring more and more care. And I used to go there after work, and they would sit on the sofa where Baba had lain, in 1952. It had been in their apartment. So that was their headquarters, you might say. That was their heart quarters. And, Kid Ella would say, take me to my friend. That was the sofa. So I would work vigorously on his legs to distract, so he wouldn't have to take morphine, distract his attention, so that he wouldn't have to take the painkillers, because it had such a, he was hallucinating, and he lost the intimate connection that he was used to having with Bob. And though months went by, and I came there one day, as I was approaching Pine Lodge, I could hear him groaning in pain from the inside, and I was hesitant to go in. And I kind of hesitated, but I thought I better go in. I opened the door, and there are Fred and Ella on the sofa, and Fred is moaning in pain. And Ella kind of said, "Well, not today." And Fred holds up his hand, and he his fist in the air, and he says, "Love alone prevails." And just a sec. And I understood the look that he gave me. I understood what he was saying. What he was saying is, he had reached such a state of realization. And what he was saying is that all these months, these many months, I felt Baba has not been helping me. And I was not able to feel his love the way I've always had. But this pain is his love. And, he has not let me down. And I stayed there for a while, and then I decided to, leave and everything. And as I was leaving, Fred put his hand up again, and he said, "Again, I say, love alone prevails. Don't say that my beloved is not loving me." So I went, at the end of the day, I would usually go around to Kitty, and she asked me about Fred, and I described what I just described what I said to Kitty. And she was working on her autobiography, and later on, the title of her book is Love Alone Prevails. I don't know if it was from Fred or not, but same wording, love alone prevails. And I could say a little bit of Ella, but other people may want to chime in.
Wonderful, Jeff. Thank you. Anybody else want to speak?
You have all brought both of them so alive that I'm feeling that I'm sitting in their presence. So thank you all for your stories. Such beauty. Thank you.
I'll tell you about the very end with Ella. Fred, before Fred passed on, and it was clear that he was dying. And Ella, I heard them many times, "Fred, what am I going to do when you're gone?" Mush, don't worry, Baba and I will come and get you, you know. And I mean, Fred, I'm not gonna, what will I do? And don't worry, Mush, Baba and I will come and get you. And so 7 years or 8 years passed, and Ella was on her sofa that Baba sat on in the living room. And Malcolm Clay and Judy Gregory and myself were there helping her. And suddenly she looks over toward the kitchen. And she says, "It's Fred, look at Fred." And she's pointing, you know, agitated. She's Fred. We're looking over there. You know, we obviously we can't see anything. Oh, now look at Baba. There's Baba. A couple seconds later, Baba comes. And she reared up out of the sofa and lunged toward them. And in the process, she broke her hip and everything. And that was the beginning of the end. But just as Fred said, Baba and I will come and fetch you. And that was something beautiful. Wow. Whew, boy. Something's happened to my computer.
Well, you're still good. We can
see
hear
you.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any more shares. Kathy, I don't know if there was anything you wanted to share specifically. I know you were around in those days. No?
Oh my God. You know, I just remember how loving they were to everybody. And I had the feeling it was very hard for them living in Pine Lodge. I think, didn't they call it Pain Lodge?
Pain Lodge, yeah.
Because, you know, the water was full of sulfur and it was just like almost camping out, you know. But they never, at least to me, they never complained. They were always so 100% filled with his light.
Yeah.
So I actually love the stories that Tom has shared, that Tom's hasn't needed to lie down, but there was one of my favorite stories with Fred and Ella Tom shares is the fragrance coming from Baba's laundry in '58, and how people smelled the beautiful fragrance from his laundry that Kitty was taking to wash. Years later, a few years later, the phone rings in Woodstock and Tom goes to answer the phone, and it's Fred saying, "We've just gotten," it was the eve of Baba's birthday, a cable had come to Fred and Ella and to Tom and the Woodstock group, sending his love at his birthday time. And as Fred's wonderful German accent filled the, you know, Tom listened to this beautiful message, this gorgeous fragrance filled the room in Woodstock. And Tom said, Fred, I'm smelling Baba's fragrance. And instantly Fred says, Moish, 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 come to the phone quick. Tom is smelling Baba.
Oh.
Well, I have those photos. I have, I think, 2 photos I'll just quickly share of Fred. So this is Ella, which well, this is Fred.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that great of Ella? Yeah.
And Beryl Williams.
Yep.
And who's the other?
We don't know. Yeah, it didn't say.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look for name.
Which one? Say who they each are. I'm sorry.
Here's
I don't.
Fred Winterfeldt right here playing the guitar.
No, you haven't got that picture up yet.
Oh,
You got Beryl Williams and Ella and the unknown.
oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And you don't know who the other woman is what you're saying.
We don't know who the other woman is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the next email up is the one you were talking about. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, there.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Wow, that's Fred.
That is amazing.
Oh my God.
And we think we're so cool with our guitar.
Wow. We're going back in history.
Is there a story?
And somebody's playing a mandolin in the background, huh?
Hana, you should tell it. Hana?
Oh, Hana, we can't hear you.
She's muted.
Is the woman next to Ed Ella?
No. No.
Hana said that Fred gave her that picture and said that he went off and went traveling with a circus. and that was a picture he gave her to show this group that he would travel with, and he would sing and
unmute yourself, Hana. Unmute yourself.
No, I know.
No, she's trying to talk and she doesn't realize we can't.
Hana, we can't hear you.
Maybe she can.
Hana, we can't hear you. Uh-huh. Uh-oh.
Write her a note, maybe.
Does look like gypsies.
Yeah.
Maybe put it in the chat.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah, good.
Okay. This is the picture, Kathy, of Fred told me that he and his friends who were musicians wandered through Germany, probably other countries, singing and playing and having a great time camping out. And then these farmers, they go to these farms and the farmers would feed them and they would play for them. And sometimes they would stay more than a few days and just hang out with the farmers.
Beautiful.
So yeah, that's, yeah.
Was this in between the wars? Do you know any idea what time?
This is before the war.
Oh,
Fred is young here. He's probably 25.
Before World War I.
Look at these boys. They look young. This lady doesn't look young, but maybe that's, I don't know.
Looks like a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Farmer's wife.
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay, wow.
Fabulous.
So so somebody should archive this and put it that this is Fred Winterfeldt. And I think the various members of the band would be different at different times according to who was free, but seems to me like Fred did it a lot, liked doing it.
So was that in Germany?
Germany.
Do we know which part?
No. But, okay, do you know about the Kaiser Wilhelm?
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, wherever he was. So they lived near him.
I'll add those photos to the video that we had, and that will
nice.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out.
What do you think, Ruthie? We coming down the home stretch?
I think so, unless there's
Unless
any
there's anybody else, yeah.
heartfelt desire. Dana, do you have anything else?
Can I ask what years both Fred and then Ella passed?
78, I think, and 85.
Thank you.
Could have been 77, but I think it was 78. Yeah.
It wasn't 77 because he met Andrew Meyer, my son, as a baby then.
Uh-huh.
You know, Denny Moore is here as well. Denny, did you have something you wanted to share?
Oh, I just wanted to listen to you guys talk. Some of my favorite people here.
Hey, Denny.
And Ella and Fred were certainly one of my two favorite people too. So, yeah, don't hang up now.
Now that you just got on.
I know.
We're coming down the home stretch.
Was Ken able to resolve his audio?
Not able, no.
Yeah. Hana, do you have any last Minute recollections.
You know, one,
Go ahead, Denny.
oh, no, go ahead, Judy.
I don't have one.
We got three
If
people
I do,
now. We got Denny, Judy, and no, nothing from Hannah. All right, Denny, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say one time I took Fred up to the chiropractor up in Chapel Hill. I think it was Chapel Hill, but it was up that way. And Ella, I drove, Fred was, his cancer was pretty advanced. And so he sat in the back seat and he pretty much laid down the whole way up there. And we got up there and this doctor, and I can't remember his name now, chiropractor, when Fred walked in, he said, "Hey," you know, the chiropractor said hello to him and he said, "Do you remember being up here a long time ago?" And he said, "No." And Fred said, "No." But he said, "Well, you were I think it was in 56 or 58, somewhere in there." And he said, "You were down in South Carolina and you came to me." Either that or he was up in New York. But anyway, he said, Fred said, "I don't know what's wrong with me, but my body's just hurting." He said, "You have cancer." And you had that back then. But I come in and I released all those points that freed you up. So you weren't bound by that anymore. And as time went on, you didn't continue to get treatment and you got all bound up again. And wow, you know, Fred, then he recalled who this doctor was. And he said, that's so amazing that you worked on me before. Because evidently he didn't remember it. Someone had taken him up there. And then on the way back, you know, Fred was in the back and I didn't know he was as bad as he was. I didn't even really know there was cancer until then. And he just suffered the whole time I drove up there and the whole time I drove back, just laying down in the back seat. He wasn't moaning, but it was so hard to see. I think I was listening to you guys talk about Payne Lodge, and it was a lot of pain for them over there. And but how much love did they pass over to us? It was just amazing what they gifted everybody that came through the center. And I felt like I had to be up there as often as I could at the front gate. You know, I'd go up there Friday night and Saturday night and just people would walk in to see Fred and Ellen and get a key and I'd open the gate and we were so fortunate to have the time that we've had around these beautiful people. Baba and of course I wasn't around Baba when he was in the body, but he's sure been around me since I cried out for help. It probably be said for each one of us too, huh? Anyway, I thought I might share that little story there.
Beautiful, yeah.
I wanted to ask, were they the first people that people met, new people met when they came to the center?
Yes,
Or not?
They were the people who greeted us, let us in. We saw Hannah and then we went back and saw Fred.
I started out with Jane Haynes at the Pine Lodge. And it got to be, you know, she had so much work, Jane. And I know she wrote to Elizabeth. She asked Elizabeth if there could be some help. I'm not exactly sure how it went, but Fred and Ella came down from New York.
Yep.
Or had they, Jeff, had they already come down or did they?
Well, they were living for a year in town before they moved on to Pine Lodge, but
they came up to work, right?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
first year. So then they did come from New York to take the job that
Yeah.
Elizabeth asked him to do.
yeah, beautiful.
She just couldn't, it was too much. She had to be free to do all the other things. We were lucky duckies.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Really, really lucky duckies.
You know, when one on a different note. One time, Baba needed to be driven from the guest house to his house, and Fred volunteered. And Baba said, "Do you know how to get there?" "Oh, of course. He's very certain." And so they take off in the car, and Baba's there beside him, and I think a couple of Mandalay, and they're driving here and there, and Fred comes to a dead end right in front of the woods. And Baba kind of looks over at him, and Fred says, "Look at Baba, someone has planted trees in the road."
That's a great story.
And Baba got a kick out of that, but
As you guys know, I don't know how you would, but my cousin Linda came up with her husband Chuck to my wedding to Jim Meyer, also with her parents. Anyway, I had to take those people to Kitty and Elizabeth, and I hadn't taken Chuck and Linda. So I was giving Chuck the directions, and he leans back. I was in the back seat. He goes, "You don't have to tell me where old lady Peterson lives. In fact, I met that guy you worship."
Oh.
I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah. Didn't you know I grew up here in Myrtle Beach?" Yeah.
Wow.
And he's still there.
Uh-huh.
He's still
Is that
there.
Billy Smith?
No, not Billy Smith. His name is Chuck McDonald.
Uh-huh.
He lives in
Wow.
Surfside.
Ooh.
If he's still alive. I've been meaning to try to find out if he's still in the body.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I love it.
I'm amazed at how many people can stay still. John Welshons, Alan Ray Powell. People are just like still. And Wayne Myers. And I'm like all over the place.
I know. I can't see. I'm always talking to.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, but I don't recall where Pine Lodge is. Is that the cabin that's up near where you come into the center?
It's on the right. It's a house.
Uh-huh.
Pine Lodge is still there, but right, Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the new gateway comes in a bit more north
Yeah.
of there.
Yeah.
So you don't come past Pine Lodge. That's still kind of tucked in the woods, no?
It is. It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I
Oh.
can feel myself walking. I just soon as I'd hit the inside the door, I would feel like I was just a little bit above the ground or something. There was just some different immediate thing inside Pine Lodge. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you want to say
Hana,
Avatar
you
Mayor
look
Baba?
really good.
Well, Denny, what?
I said, Hana, you look real good.
Doesn't she?
Thanks, Annie. Hi.
Yeah, you guys saved my life, the three of you angels.
Yeah.
The three
What's he
women that
talking about?
we're doing the healing work in town.
That's so true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time wounds all heals.
Oh, you haven't changed a bit.
Miss Robertson, did you have something else you wanted to add?
No, no.
Okay. I just wondered.
Well, actually, what years were Fred and Ella born? Anybody know?
Now there's
I think Fred was 1898, something like that.
If you go to Mayor Baba Travels, all the details are there.
That's what I was thinking.
And Ella was about the same age. Yeah. The beautiful thing about Ella in the latter part of her life, she had dementia. And so there are people that she'd known forever, she couldn't recognize. She could kind of recognize my voice, but the amazing thing is the thing that really struck me is she never looked at a photograph of Baba and said, "Who's he?" In other words, there must be a different faculty that recognizes Baba, because she never, Baba was always there, but she could look over at, at Malcolm or somebody and wouldn't remember who they are. So, when people's parents are getting older and they're getting a little dementia, I tell them, if they're Christian, I tell them, get a picture of Jesus, put it in their room, because that is very comforting. I mean, when her mind was fragmenting, Baba was always there. She could touch base with Baba and the photographs of Baba. It was just, I mean, it was noticeable.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, you're kind of getting like that too. You know, whenever I see you, you don't know
Yeah.
who I am anymore.
Yeah.
And
Wait, what is your name again?
I'm Baba.
Oh, Larry, don't take it personally.
Oh, this has been lovely.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah. So maybe a moment of silence, and then we can all say Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. If you'd like to unmute. Avatar.
Baba.
Jai.
Avatar
Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar
Avatar
Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank
you. Thank you.
Hana and Jeff.
Yeah.
How do you
Karen.
talk to people? Will they be gone? And how
No,
can I
we
get-
got time.
Somebody's asking me if I'm the same Debbie that was in the Hana, that I'm the same person that used to work at the Gateway. Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah, how many years do you think, Hannah?
What?
Were you at the Gateway?
7 years, till Andrew was born.
Oh, that's right.
I would have still been there.
And
But
how,
Andrew got born.
how old is Andrew now?
He just turned 44.
Wow.
So,
44.
Deborah, Hannah, that's
okay.
me. That's me, Elizabeth. And
Hi.
I stayed with you at your apartment because there wasn't enough space at the center one weekend. And Andrew was 7. 7 or 8.
Really?
Yeah, you had very long hair then. And anyway,
Yeah, it was
and
different.
we had a wonderful time. We went to the beach, and
Oh,
I'm sorry I didn't recognize you when I got here later, but I had no
doesn't
idea
matter.
you worked at the gatehouse. That was after.
oh,
Yes, you.
yes,
had not-
yeah, I left to have Andrew.
Yeah. Anyway, really great to see you. I've been looking for you for months.
Well, it says Hana Peterson, HANA Peterson @gmail. Anybody want to write to me? I'd love to hear from you.
Oh, great.
Hannah, I'll probably catch up with you because I'd like if you'd help with a remembrance of Jane.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good.
I spent more time with Jane than Fred Ella, really. Yeah.
I hear that. Yes. All right. And Dana too, of course.
Dana, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know really her early history, but Wendy will.
Wendy will.
Wendy will.
And Charles, yeah.
Yeah.
Charles.
Charles. That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. That'll be April 11th, I believe.
Okay, I'll put it on my calendar. This
Please.
is really fun.
That's good.
So you do
Yeah.
this every Sunday?
Not every Sunday, but it comes, Karen, are you still on? Karen or Alan? I think we're going to remember Padre
Oh, good.
Oh, wow.
next weekend. So yeah, Peter Nordine will be here and Debbie Nordine.
Everybody should read that book. It's just phenomenal. Erica.
And
was-
there's a West Coast group that's reading the book. I always forget the name of
Yeah.
it. Something.
It
missing.
takes time, mister.
Yeah, I always forget the
It
name.
takes time.
all these things.
So, John Wilson's good to see you after.
Great to see all of you, especially you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
Been like
looking,
50 years or something.
yeah, you're looking great.
You too.
Yeah.
You too. Thank you.
So it's now good.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Hana, for coming on. And
Oh, thank you.
oh,
Wonderful.
boy.
It takes the Baba family.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And the beautiful thing is that these are people demonstrate how to live for Baba down here in the gross world. You know, I mean, they are prime examples of how to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's really, it's not something esoteric or a transcendental. It's just love down here on a very personal level. And they embodied that beautifully.
Love alone prevails.
Yeah.
And we have a concert coming up today, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Ooh.
Kathy Riley at 3 o'clock. Is that right?
3:30. I think
3:30.
3:30, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
live at the center down there and on Zoom for all of the rest of us who are still stuck at home.
Yeah.
We are
You
too
all on the
down
East
here, but
Coast? I'm on the West Coast.
12:30 Coast coming right up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then tomorrow, Myra and Jamie Newell, my gosh.
Oh yeah. There are so many. The lovely Angela has exploded with
She is
ideas.
this girl.
Just wanted to shout out to Karen and Alan because they're always so helpful. They've been just, they're always right there to take care of business. Thank you both.
They have a toehold at Myrtle Beach too. I know they're bi-coastal folk. Don't you guys still have a place there? Well, anyway, they're wonderful, both of them.
This is a sweet picture. It has Ella in it with Laura Delevingne, and Kitty's there too. I don't know if it's too much of a glare, but it was Jenny Zenners, and I just love Ella's pose. Very sweet, real intent. Yeah, yeah.
I don't think that's Laura Delevingne.
Who is the woman with the hands?
It is
That's
Laura
Ella.
Delevingne.
Oh.
Laura Delevingne.
Oh, she's very beautiful.
Yeah,
That's
she
not
was
Laura
beautiful.
Delevingne.
You don't think it's Laura?
It actually
It is Laura. It is Laura Delevingne.
unusual.
Yeah, it's hard to see. The glare is a little.
Yeah, that's right.
It makes her head look bigger than it was, but it's just
okay.
close, but
It
it
is
is Laura, I think.
You would know.
Well, we have our moments when our head is bigger.
Jeff, did you tell the story about how Fred and Ella walked up to the lagoon cabin and went in?
I don't think so.
Well, okay, here we go. So anyway, they had not yet met Bob, but they communicated with him. But so as people were going in, it finally, Ella was walking up the steps, and she ran in, or she walked in, and Baba put his arms around him, and Fred got very serious. Like he said, I was angry. Baba was putting his arms around my wife. And then over Ella's shoulder, Baba winked at Fred and signaled with his fingers to come on in. And he said he just almost collapsed in Baba's arms. He just raced in there, and he said it was so amazing. He forgot all about that jealousy or whatever. But he told me that. He said, I was jealous. You know, he said, didn't Baba know that was my wife?
I love it.
Oh,
so sweet. And does anybody remember the story? I don't know if it's a big story, but the only part I remember was that Fred liked cigarettes. No?
I didn't know that.
Sorry, but I can't remember. There is something about that.
Yeah, and
Maybe it's
Baba
Lord Mayor.
see. if I read more.
There is something. I think he smoked.
Yeah.
I think he smoked and had a hard time giving it up or something like that.
And then Baba, I think Baba intervened in some way.
Yeah, somehow.
And then
I
just-
bet who's gone? I bet Jeff would know. Jeff would probably know it.
Yeah, of course.
He knows everything.
Everybody.
Well, I wasn't having much success stopping smoking, and I just I had the patch, and my arm was sore underneath where the patch was because I wore it so much, and I had the
Oh,
gum,
dear.
and I had the Chantix pill, and finally I got, come on, Baba, I said, you know, I really need help here, and I was sitting on the caretaker's cabin, sitting on the stairs there, and I said, Baba, I really can't do this. You've got to help me. And finally, I just said, "Well, okay, I've asked you now," and I got up, and that was the last cigarette I ever had.
Wow.
It worked.
And it was just, and I didn't even have troubles anymore. But it was instantaneous when I said, "Baba, I can't do this."
Wow.
Story.
That's a great story, Denny.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah.
Hey, thank you, Ruth. And thank you, Hana. Wow, what a pleasure this has been. It's been,
This has been so much fun.
uh,
I didn't even know I could do this.
Oh,